Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Wait a minute. Wait, no, I'm not reading that anymore. That was last week. No, I'm finally out of that. I'm finally out of that perpetual state of hell of having to read that over and over and over again and finding out my audio is no good. Oh my goodness. No, now we have gone from Poe to Dickens. Uh we're gonna have a bit of a preamble before we go into the reading. So if you want to skip that and you're in a VOD, there will be a timestamp. Don't worry, just look to that timestamp and you can skip right to it. But we will. Ooh, actually, I think they have bad bitrate on Twitch, and that is a lie. So I'm just gonna turn that off. I have fine bitrate. I don't know why. I don't know. Twitch has a horrible feedback method where it gives you like the color of like red, uh, and that means bad, but it will like show that for you when you have like really good bitrate or really bad bitrate. Like I don't know. Like there's different colors, there's green and whatnot, but it just it doesn't seem to matter at all. But we're here to read Dickens, and it's a ghost story, so I have the ghost filter on, hence why I look spooky today. Ooh. And I think I'm just gonna put in a quick disclaimer. And it looks like, huh? Oh, is YouTube doing that one thing? No, it's not. Okay. So I thought sometimes YouTube does this one thing where it makes my live stream inaccessible because it hates me. But I'm going to put a quick disclaimer up. Explain. Oh. So okay, no. I'm not gonna bother with it with that actually. I think we're just gonna go into it. I don't really like waiting around. I don't really like doing that. I know that you're supposed to like have a preamble, let people file in and whatnot, but I just don't really care for that. I don't really want to talk about my holiday because it's just I spent time with family. It was nice. I don't think that's important. I just want to read this, and I just want to be thankful that this is public domain because so many of the other things I have been wanting to read are not public domain. So let's just get into it. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Preface. I have endeavored in this ghostly little book to raise the ghost of an idea, which shall not put my readers out of humor with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt their houses pleasantly, and no one wish to lay it. Their faithful friend and servant, C.D. December 1843. It's only about 5 chapters. We're probably only going to read 2 to 3 chapters today. And then we'll read the other 2 to 3 tomorrow. We might do some post-game. Like post-reading, like, gameplay or something. In the past, we've done it after each chapter. We're probably not going to do it after each chapter here. We're going to read the whole thing. And then if we have some extra time, we might do, I don't know, Hollow Cure, because that's what we usually do. And there's a character in Hollow Cure that has a Santa outfit. That's close enough. Okay. Stave 1. Marley's Ghost. Marley was dead to begin with. There's no doubt whatever about that. The register on his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he close to put his hand on. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know of my own knowledge what there is particularly dead about a doornail. I might have been inclined myself to regard a coffin nail as the deadest piece of ironmongery in the trade, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hand shall not disturb it, or the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat emphatically that Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners, for I don't know how many years Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole assign, his sole residuary legatee, his sole friend and sole mourner. And even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up about the sad event, but that he was an excellent man of business on the very day of the funeral, and solemnized it with an undoubted bargain. The mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to the point I started from. There is no doubt that Marley was dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come from the story I am going to relate. If we were not perfectly convinced of Hamlet's father died before the play, there would be nothing more remarkable in his taking a stroll at night in an easterly wind upon his own ramparts than there would be in any other middle-aged gentleman rashly turning out after dark in a breezy spot, say St. Paul's churchyard, for instance, literally to astonish his son's weak mind. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood years afterwards above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge, and sometimes Marley, but he answered to both names. It was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire, secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head and on his eyebrows and his wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. External heat and cold had little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm him, no wintry weather could chill him, no wind that blew was bitter than he, or no falling snow was more intent upon its purpose, no pelting rain less open to entreaty. Foul weather didn't know where to have him. The heaviest rain and snow and hail and sleet could boast of the advantage over him in only one respect. They often came down handsomely, and Scrooge never did. Nobody ever stopped him in the street to say, with gladsome looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? When will you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what it was o'clock. No man or woman ever once in all his life inquired the way to such and such a place of Scrooge. Even the blind man's dog appeared to know him, and when they saw him coming on, would tug their owners into doorways and up courts, and then would wag their tails as though they said, No eye at all is better than an evil eye, Dark Master. But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance, and was what the knowing ones called nuts to Scrooge. Once upon a time, of all good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak weather, foggy withal, and he could hear the people in the court outside go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warm them. The city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day, and the candles were flaring in the windows of the neighboring offices like ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. The fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole, and was so dense without that although the court was of the narrowest, the houses opposite were mere phantoms. To see the dingy cloud come drooping down, obscuring every one, might have thought that nature lived hard by and was brewing on a large scale. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who, in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room, and so surely as the clerk came in with the shovel, the master predicted it would be necessary for them to part. Wherefore the clerk put it on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a man of strong imagination, he failed. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation he had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all of a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again. "Christmas humbug, Uncle," said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I am sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Come then," returned the nephew gaily. "What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said, "Bah!" again, followed up with a humbug. "Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be?" returned the uncle. "When I live in such a world of fools as this, Merry Christmas! Out upon Merry Christmas! What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older but not an hour richer? A time for balancing your books and having every item in 'em through a round dozen of months presented dead against you? If I could work my will," said Scrooge indignantly, "every idiot who goes about with 'Merry Christmas' on his lips would be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. He should." Uncle, pleaded the nephew. Nephew, returned the uncle sternly, keep Christmas in your own way, and let me keep it in mine. Keep it, repeated Scrooge's nephew, but you don't keep it. Let me leave it alone, then, said Scrooge. Much good may it do you. Much good it has ever done you. There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say, returned the nephew. Christmas among the rest, but I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, apart from the veneration due to its sacred name and origin, if anything belonging to it can be apart from that, as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, the only time I know of in the long calendar of the year, when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely, and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good, and will do me good. And I say, God bless it! The clerk in the tank involuntarily applauded. Becoming immediately sensible of the impropriety, he poked the fire and extinguished the last frail spark forever. Let me hear another sound from you, said Scrooge, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation. You're quite a powerful speaker, sir, he added, turning to his nephew. I wonder you don't go into Parliament. Don't be angry, uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. Scrooge said that he would see him. Yes, indeed he did. He went to the whole length of the expression, and said that he would see him in the extremity first. I am the figgy puddin'. Hello. You're a little behind, not by much, but if you want, I would not be offended if you went back and did it at 2 times speed, though it might sound a little weird, but we are just about at the end of the exchange between Scrooge and his nephew. So this is like right before I think the people come in to be like, do you want to make a donation? And then Scrooge says some of the most nasty things ever. But why? Cried Scrooge. Oh, sorry. But why? Cried Scrooge's nephew. Why? Why did you get married? Said Scrooge. I forgot he's an incel. Because I fell in love. Because you fell in love, growled Scrooge, as if that were the only one thing in the world more ridiculous than Merry Christmas. Good afternoon. He is an incel. I kind of forgot about that. I always forget Scrooge is an incel. Or a volcel. I can't remember. I don't know these terms you kids use nowadays. I've read a Christmas Carol many times. I am good jumping in here. Yeah, okay. Nay, uncle, but you never came to see me before that happened. Why give it as a reason for not coming now? Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends? Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I am sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. We have never had any quarrel to which I have been a party, but I have made the trial in homage to Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So, a Merry Christmas, Uncle. Good afternoon, said Scrooge, and a Happy New Year. Good afternoon. His nephew left the room without an angry word. Notwithstanding, he stopped at the outer door to bestow the greetings of the season on the clerk, who, cold as he was warmer than Scrooge. He returned them cordially. There's another fellow, muttered Scrooge, who overheard him.
my clerk, with 15 shillings a week, and a wife and family talking about Merry Christmas. I'll retire to Bedlam. This lunatic, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let two other people in. They were portly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, and now stood with their hats off in Scrooge's office. They had books and papers in their hands and bowed to him. Scrooge and Marley, I believe, said one of the gentlemen referring to his list. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley? Marley has been dead these 7 years, replied Scrooge. He died 7 years ago, this very night. We have no doubt this is well represented by his surviving partner, said the gentleman representing his credentials. It certainly was, for they had been two kindred spirits. At the ominous word liberality. I read that as liberty. I'm a little sorry, my inner American showing a little too much. I read liberality as liberty. Scrooge frowned and shook his head and handed the credentials back. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, said the gentleman, taking up a pen, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provisions for the poor and destitute, you who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in the want of common necessaries. Hundreds of thousands are in a want of common comfort, sir. Are there no prisons? Asked Scrooge. Plenty of prisons, said the gentleman, laying down the pen again. And the union workhouses? Demanded Scrooge. Are they still in operation? They are still, returned the gentleman. I wish I could say they were not. The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor, then, said Scrooge. Both very busy. Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their usual course, said Scrooge. I'm very glad to hear it. Under the impression they scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude, returned the gentleman, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for? Nothing, Scrooge replied. You wish to be anonymous? I wish to be left alone, said Scrooge. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself for Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishment I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there. Many can't go there, and many would rather die. If they would rather die, said Scrooge, they had better do it, and decrease the surplus population. Besides, excuse me, I don't know that. But you might know it, observed the gentleman. It's not my business, Scrooge returned. Hello, Lan. We're just we just got through the part, or we're just getting through the part where Scrooge is telling the person who wants donations that the poor can just, up and die. He don't care. It is not my business, Scrooge returned. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I need to get a drink. Yeah, but we got through the nephew and we just got through the donations, it looks like. Seeing clearly that it would be useless to pursue their point, the gentleman withdrew. Scrooge resumed his labor with an improved opinion of himself, and in a more fastidious temper than he usual with him. He's literally proud of it. Meanwhile, the fog and darkness thickened, so that people ran about with flaring lights, offering their services to go before horses and carriages and conduct them on their way. The ancient tower of a church, whose gruff old bell was always peeping slyly down at Scrooge out of a Gothic window in the wall, became invisible and struck the hours and quarters in the clouds with tremulous vibrations afterwards, as if its teeth were chattering in its frozen head up there. The cold became intense. Oh my goodness. In the main street at the corner of the court, some laborers were repairing gas pipes and had lighted a great fire in a brazier. That a brazier is something else. Around which a party of ragged men and boys were gathered, warming their hands and winking their eyes before the blaze in rapture. The water plug being left in solitude, its overflowing sullenly congealed and turned to misanthropic ice. The brightness of the shops were holly sprigs and berries crackled in the lamp heat of the windows, made pale faces ruddy as they passed. Poulters and grocers and trades became a splendid joke, a glorious I don't know what is wrong with me right now. Pageant with which it was next to impossible to believe that such a dull principle as bargain and sale had anything to do. The Lord Mayor, in the stronghold of the mighty mansion house, gave orders to his 50 cooks and butlers to keep Christmas as a Lord Mayor's household should, and even the little tailor, whom he had fined 5 shillings on the previous Monday for being drunk and bloodthirsty in the streets, stirred up tomorrow's pudding in his garret, while his lean wife and baby sallied out to buy the beef. I need to compose myself real quick. I don't know why I'm messing up. Yuck. I was doing really well at the start. Foggier yet and colder, piercing, searching, biting cold. If the good Saint Dunstan had but nipped the evil spirit's nose with a touch of such weather as that, instead of using his familiar weapons, when indeed he would have roared to lustry purpose, the owner of a scant young nose gnawed and mumbled by the hungry cold, as bones are gnawed by dogs, stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with Christmas carol. But at the first sound of "God bless you, merry gentlemen, may nothing you dismay," Scrooge seized the ruler with such energy of action that the singer fled in terror, leaving a keyhole to the fog and even more congenial frost. I realized that I'm distracted. I said it at the start of stream, but I don't think either of you were here at the start of stream, at the very start. When we're done reading, we might do a little bit of Hollow Cure as Iris, because it might be just a good opportunity to talk about the 2 to 3 chapters that we're reading. But we're not going to have a break in between each chapter, is what I wanted to say. That's why I was messing up. I was a little distracted with that thought in the back of my head. At length, the hour of shutting up the counting house arrived. With an ill will, Scrooge dismounted from his stool and tactfully, tacitly. The letters on those words are similar. And tacitly admitted the fact that the expectant clerk in the tank, who instantly snuffed his candle out and put it on his hat. I want to know why certain words are capitalized like proper nouns in Dickens' writing. If he does that to emphasize it, or if that was more of a thing in like the 1800s. I want to look into that. I'll have to do that off stream. You'll want all day to. You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose, said Scrooge. If quite convenient, sir. It's not convenient, said Scrooge, and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. The clerk smiled faintly. And yet, said Scrooge, you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work. The clerk observed that it was only once a year. Poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December, said Scrooge, buttoning his greatcoat to the chin. But I suppose you must have a whole day. Be here all the earlier the next morning. The clerk promised that he would, and Scrooge walked out with a growl. The office was closed in a twinkling, and the clerk, with the long ends of his white comforter dangling below his waist, for he boasted no greatcoat, went down a slide on Cornhill, not Churchill, on Cornhill, with at the end of the lane of boys 20 times in honor of its being Christmas Eve, and then ran home to Camden Town as hard as he could pelt to play at Blind Man's Bluff. I need to pour myself more water. I'm going to be taking sips in between chapters instead of making giant glugs. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers, and beguiled the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to bed. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner. They were a gloomy suite of rooms, in a lowering pile of buildings up a yard, which it had so little business to be, that one could scarcely help fancying it must have run there when. Sorry. Must have run. I lost my place because I looked away for half a second. I'm sorry. Scarcely fancying having run there when it was a young house playing at hide and seek with other houses and forgetting the way out again. It was old enough now and dreary enough, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge, and the other rooms being all let out as offices, the yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, was faint. Sorry, my dog was doing something very bad. Um, um, I don't think I have to go out to deal with it. I think somebody else is dealing with it. It was old enough now, dreary enough, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge, the other rooms being all let out as offices. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, was fain to grope with his hands. The fog and frost so hung about the black gold gateway of the house that it seemed as if the genius of the weather sat in mournful meditation on the threshold. Sorry about those interruptions. Now it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. It is also a fact that Scrooge had seen it night and morning during this whole residence in that place. Also, that Scrooge had as little about of what is called fancy about him as any man in the city of London, even including which is a bold word, the corporation, alderman, and livery. Let it also be borne in mind that Scrooge had not bestowed one thought on Marley since his last mention of his 7 years dead partner that afternoon, and then let any man explain to me. I saw my model freaking out. If he can, how it happened that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door saw in the knocker, without its undergoing any intermediate process of change, not a knocker, but Marley's face. Marley's face, it was not an impenetrable shadow as the other objects in the yard were, but had a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar. It was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles that turned up on his ghostly forehead. Spectacles, I forgot to put on my glasses. One moment. Where's the toggle? Ah, it's at the end. I forgot my reading glasses for the reading stream. The hair was curiously stirred, as if by breath or hot air, and though the eyes were wide open, they were perfectly motionless. That and its livid color made it horrible, but its horror seemed to be in spite of the face and beyond its color rather than a part of its own expression. As Scrooge looked fixedly at the phenomenon, it was a knocker again. To say that he was not startled, or that his blood was not conscious of a terrible sensation to which it had been a stranger from infancy, would be untrue. But he had his hand upon the key. But he put his hand upon the key he had relinquished, turned it sturdily, walked in and lighted a candle. I might need to go out and check on someone. It sounds like they're struggling. He did pause with a moment's irresolution before he shut the door, and he did look cautiously behind it first, as if he half expected to be terrified with the sight of Marley's pigtail sticking out into the hall. But there was nothing on the back of the door except the screws and nuts that held the knocker on. So he said, "Poof, poof," and closed it with a bang. The sound resounded through the house like thunder. Every room above and every cask in the wine merchant's cellars below appeared to have separate peal of echoes of its own. Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes. He fastened the door and walked across the hall and up the stairs slowly too, trimming his candle as he went. You may talk vaguely about driving a coach and six up a good old flight of stairs, or through a bad young Act of Parliament, but I mean to say you might have got a hearse up that staircase and taken it broadwise. Oh, with the splinter bar toward the wall and the door toward the balustrades, I don't know that word, I'm sorry, and done it easy. There was plenty of width for that, and room to spare, which is perhaps the reason why Scrooge thought he saw a locomotive hearse going on before him in the gloom. Half a dozen gas lamps out of the street wouldn't have lighted the entry too well, so you may suppose that it was pretty dark in Scrooge's dip. Up Scrooge went, not caring a button for that. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it. But before he shut his heavy door, he walked through his rooms to see that all was right. He had just enough recollection of that face to desire to do that. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa. A small fire in the grate, spoon and basin ready, and a little saucepan of gruel. Scrooge had a cold in his head, upon the hob. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet, nobody in his dressing gown, which was hanging up in the suspicious attitude against the wall. Lumber room as usual, old fire guard, old shoes, 2 fish baskets, washing stands on 3 legs, and a poker. Quite satisfied, he closed his door, and he locked himself in, double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers, and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his gruel. It was a very low fire indeed. Nothing on the. I'm going to actually address something real quick because them saying head cold made me realize I did not turn on the fan, and so that's going to lead to congestion. A closed room, so real quickly, just turn on the fan for some airflow. Stop myself from getting congested. That should do. Yep. It was a very low fire indeed. Nothing on such a bitter night. Nothing on such a bitter night. He was obliged to sit close to it and brood over it before he could extract the last sensation of warmth from such a handful of fuel. The fireplace was an old one, built by some Dutch merchant long ago, and paved all around with quaint Dutch tiles designed to illustrate the scriptures. There were Cains and Abels, Pharaoh's daughters, queens and of Sheba, angelic passengers descending through the air on clouds like feather beds, Abraham, Belzahar, apostles putting off to sea in butter boats, hundreds of figures to attract his thoughts. And yet that face of Marley, 7 years dead, came like an ancient prophet's rod and swallowed up the whole. If each smooth tile had been blank at first, with power to shape some picture on its surface from the disjointed fragments of the thoughts, there would have been a copy of old Marley's head on every one. Humbug, said Scrooge, and walked across the room. After several turns, he sat down again. He threw his head back in the chair and glanced. His glance happened to rest upon a bell, a disused bell that hung in the room and communicated for some purpose now, forgotten, with the chamber in the highest story of the building. It was with great astonishment and with strange, inexplicable dread at that. My apologies. I thought a bug was flying across my screen. It was just a piece of lint. That did... Oh my god, I got really distracted by that like a cat. It was with astonishment, strange and inexplicable, that he looked. He saw this bell begin to swing. It swung so softly in the outset that it scarcely made a sound, but soon it rang out loudly, and so did every bell in the house. This might have lasted half a minute, or a minute, but it seemed an hour. The bells ceased as they began to gather. They were succeeded by a clanking noise deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain over the casks in the wine merchant's cellar. Scrooge then remembered to have heard that ghosts in haunted houses were described as dragging chains. Chat, when we get done with this, if you could remind me to check if this website has the Epic of Gilgamesh, I would appreciate that. Anyways, the cellar door flew. That was a. I'm sorry for that interruption. The cellar door flew open with a booming sound, and then he heard the noise much more louder on the floors below, then coming up the stairs, then coming straight towards this door. It's humbug still, said Scrooge. I won't believe it. His color changed, though, when without a pause it came on through the heavy door and passed into the room before his eyes. Upon its coming in, the dying flame leaped up as though it cried, I know him, Marley's ghost, and fell again. Whoop.
Is this another stave? Hold up. Is this a separate stave? Oh, no, that was just the title to the piece. Okay. Don't worry, we can get back there very easy, because we have the picture. The same face, the very same face, Marley in his pigtail, usual waistcoat, tights and boots, the tassels on the latter bristling like his pigtails, and his coat skirt, and the hair upon his head. The chain he drew was clasped about his middle. It was long and wound about him like a tail, and it was made, for Scrooge observed it closely, of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses wrought with steel. His body was transparent, so that Scrooge, observing him and looking through his waistcoat, could see the 2 buttons on his coat behind. Scrooge had often heard it said that Marley had no bowels, but he had never believed it until now. No, nor did he believe it even now, though he looked the phantom through and saw it standing before him, though he felt the chilling influence of its death-cold eyes, and darked the varied texture of the folded kerchief bound about its head and chin, which wrapper he had not observed before. He was still incredulous and fought against his senses. How now, said Scrooge, caustic and cold as ever. What do you want with me? Much, Marley's voice. No doubt about it. Who are you? Ask me who I was. Who were you then? Said Scrooge, raising his voice. You're particular for a shade. He was going to say to a shade, but substituted this as more appropriate. In life I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You can you sit down? Asked Scrooge, looking doubtfully at him. I can. Do it then. Scrooge asked the question because he didn't know whether a ghost so transparent might find himself in a condition to take a chair, and felt that, in the event of its being impossible, it might involve the necessity of an embarrassing explanation. But the ghost sat down on the opposite side of the fireplace, as if he were quite used to it. Okay, then. Ooh, actually, that's foreshadowing, now that I remember it. You don't believe in me, observed the ghost. I don't, said Scrooge. What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your senses? I don't know, said Scrooge. I didn't know you were doing that. That's fine. Fucking chimkin pie, dude. Is it? Wait. No, I'm not gonna ask. I mean, it'd have to be. It's a meat pie, so that's all. It is a meat pie. Okay, so yeah. Back to the story. I don't know. Doubt your senses. Because, said Scrooge, a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of the grave about you, whatever you are. Scrooge was not much in the habit of making jokes,
nor did he feel in his heart any, by any means, waggish then. The truth is that he tried to be smart. I hope your journey goes well. I hope it comes out well. Ooh, make sure you have your timer set, by the way. I know sometimes forget to put the timer on. That's a pain in the ass when you're like, oh, it's been in there for an extra 5 minutes. Crumb cheese, oh, wait. The truth is that he tried to be smart as a means to distracting his own attention and keeping it down his terror. For the spectre's voice disturbed the very marrow in his bones. To sit staring at those fixed, glazed eyes in silence for a moment would play, Scrooge felt, the very deuce with him. There was something very awful, too, in the spectre being provided with the infernal atmosphere of its own. Scrooge could not feel it himself, but as was clearly the case, for though the ghost sat perfectly motionless, his hair and skirts and tassels were still agitated as by some hot vapor from an oven. "You see this toothpick?" said Scrooge, returning quickly to the charge. Goodness. For the reason just assigned, and wishing, though it were only for a second, to divert the vision's stony gaze from himself. "I do," replied the ghost. "You are not looking at it," said Scrooge. "But I see it," said the ghost, notwithstanding. "Well," returned Scrooge, "I have but to swallow this, and be for the rest of my days persecuted by a legion of goblins, all of my own creation. Humbug, I tell you, humbug." At this the spirit raised a frightful cry, and shook its chains with a dismal and appalling noise, that Scrooge held on tight to his chair to save himself from falling in the swoon. But how much greater was his horror when the phantom, taking off the bandage around its head, as if it were to warm a wear as if it was too warm to wear inside, its lower jaw dropped down upon its breast. Scrooge fell upon his knees, clasped his hands before his face. "Mercy!" he said, "dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?" I should not be putting my hands in front of my face while reading this, because that is not good for the camera. I should be doing a little less method acting in the middle of reading this. "Man of worldly mind," replied the ghost, "do you believe me or not?" "I do," said Scrooge. "I must. But why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?" "It is required of every man," the ghost returned, "that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow man, and travel far and wide. And if the spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe's me! And witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness." Again the spectre raised a cry, and shook its chains, and wrung its shadowy hands. "You are fettered," said Scrooge, trembling. "Tell me why." "I wear the change I forged in life," replied the ghost. "I made it link by link, in yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you?" Scrooge trembled more and more. "Or would you know," pursued the ghost, "the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It is full as heavy. It was full as heavy and as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain. Scrooge glanced about him on the floor, in the expectation to find himself surrounded by some 50 or 60 fathoms of iron cable, but he could see nothing. Jacob, he said imploringly, "Old Jacob Marley, tell me more, speak comfort to me, Jacob." "I have none to give," the ghost replied. "It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me, in life my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hall, and weary journeys lie before me." It was a habit with Scrooge, whenever he became thoughtful, to put his hands on his breeches pockets, pondering on what the ghost had said. He, he did so now, but without lifting his eyes or getting off his knees. You you must have been very slow about it, Jacob," observed Scrooge in a business-like manner, though with humility and deference. "Slow?" repeated the ghost. I'm for some reason I'm putting the verb before the noun, and like for this for some reason I don't know why I'm doing that. 7 years dead," mused Scrooge, "and traveling all the time." "The whole time," said the ghost. "No rest, no peace, incessant torture of remorse." "You travel fast?" said Scrooge. "On the winds, on the wings of the wind," replied the ghost. "You might have got over a great quantity of ground in 7 years," said Scrooge. The ghost, on hearing this, set up another cry and clanked his chain so hideously in the dead silence of the night that the ward would have been justified in indicting it for nuisance. "Oh, captive bound and double ironed," cried the phantom, "not now! That ages of incessant labours by immortal creatures, for this earth must pass into eternity before the good of which it is susceptible is all developed. Not to know that any Christmas spirit working kindly in the little sphere, whatever it may be, will find its mortal life too short for its vast means of usefulness. Not to know what no space of regret can make amends for one's life's opportunity misused, yet such was I, oh, such was I. But but you were always a good man of business, Jacob, faltered Scrooge, who now began to apply to himself. "Business?" cried the ghost, wringing his hands again. "Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business." It held up its chain at arm's length, as if it were the cause of all its unavailing grief, and flung it heavily upon the ground again. "At this time of rolling year," the spectre said, "I suffer most. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes downturned, and never raise them to the blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode? Were there no poor homes to which its light could have conducted me?" Scrooge was very much dismayed to hear the spectre going on at this rate, and began to quake exceedingly. "Hear me!" cried the ghost. "My time is nearly gone." "I will," said Scrooge, "but don't be hard upon me. Don't be flowery, Jacob, pray." "How it is that I appear before you in a shape that you can see, I may not tell. I have sat invisible beside you many and many a day." It was not an agreeable idea. Scrooge shivered and wiped the perspiration from his brow. "That is no light part on my oh, that is no light part of my penance," pursued the ghost. "I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate, a chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer." "You are always a good friend to me," said Scrooge. "Thank ye." "You will be haunted," resumed the ghost, "by three spirits." Scrooge's countenance fell almost as low as the ghost's had done. "Is there any chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob?" he demanded in a faltering voice. "It is." I think I'd rather not," said Scrooge. "Without their visits," said the ghost, "you cannot hope to shun the path I tread, except the first tomorrow, when the bell tolls one." "Couldn't I take 'em all at once, and have it all over with, Jacob?" hinted Scrooge. "Expect the second on the next night at the same hour, the third upon the next, when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more, and look that, for your own sake, you remember what has passed between us." When it was said these words, the spectre took his wrapper from the table and bound it round his head. As before, Scrooge knew by the smart sound of his teeth made when the jaws were brought together by the bandage. He ventured to raise his eyes again and found his supernatural visitor confronting him with an erect attitude, with its chain wound over and about its arm. I should have turned the fan on earlier because I did get congested after all. Hopefully some nasal spray will help clear that up. Okay. About his arm, the apparition walked backwards from him, and at every step it took, the window raised itself a little, so that when the spectre reached it, it was wide open. It beckoned Scrooge to approach, which he did. When they were within 2 paces of each other, Marley's ghost held up its hand, warning him to come no nearer. Scrooge stopped. Not so much in obedience as in surprise and fear, for on the raising of the hand he became sensible of the confused noises in the air, incoherent sounds of lamentation and regret, wailing inexpressibly, sorrowful and self-accusatory. I don't know why I'm struggling with these words sometimes. The spectre, after listening for the moment, joined in mournful dirge, and floated out upon the bleak, dark night. Scrooge followed to the window, desperate in his curiosity. He looked out. The air was filled with phantoms, wandering hither and thither in restless haste, moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Marley's ghost. Some few, they might be guilty governments, were linked together. None were free. Many had been personally known to Scrooge in their lives. He had been quite familiar with one old ghost in a white waistcoat with a monstrous iron safe attached to its ankle, who cried piteously at being unable to assist a wretched woman with an infant
I should have said wretched woman, because that wretched has a lot of negative connotation today. Whom it saw below upon a doorstep, the misery with them all was clearly that they sought to interfere for good in human matters and had lost the power to ever do so. Whether these creatures faded into the mist or mist enshrouded them, he could not tell, but they and their spirit voices faded together, and the night became as it had been when he walked home. Scrooge closed the window and examined the door by which the ghost had entered. It it was double locked as he had locked it his own hands, and the bolts were undisturbed. He tried to say humbug, but stopped at the first syllable, and being from the emotion he had undergone, or the fatigue of the day, or the glimpse of the invisible world, or the dull conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, much in need of repose, went straight to bed without undressing, and fell asleep upon the instant. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Why is... Okay. I'm gonna let the nasal spray take effect real quick and get a drink. I was not drinking nearly enough that chapter. We're gonna take a little repose ourselves. We're gonna take a little break for like 5 minutes. Because I messed up a lot in that chapter, and I kept getting more self-critical because of it, like an idiot. But also, that chapter took like a little longer than it should have because I kept being self-critical. Ooh, I do need to hydrate. But I just wasn't drinking that entire time, and I didn't drink for the first half, which got me really dehydrated, which made me self-conscious of my mouth of all things. And then I just kept forgetting to drink for the rest of the chapter, which just kept making me fumble. Ooh. Oh, wait, actually, I'm going to share something on our break real quick. Uh, I have done this. I've done this, chat. I have updated the room, and I don't know if you can really see it because he's not the most apparent thing, but I have added a raven to the background, and I have made it into a speech bubble for chat. I thought that would be something nice, because I thought having, let me see here, the chat box just kind of levitating there was a little awkward in this setup. It's a little awkward in the overlay, in the new overlay that I have commissioned that'll hopefully be done soon. The mirror is not as awkward. It's not just floating there. Well, it is kind of still floating there, but it's a little yes. But it's the new overlay. I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to it being done. Oop. But I wanted to share that real quick. Oop. We don't really use this enough. The background, this room. Oop. I honestly. On full screen, he's really obvious, but anything under full screen, the Raven is really hard to see because he's this black on dark wood. But I wanted to share that, and I think the medicine has worked as much as it's going to for the moment. I think we can focus in on this again. Also, wait a minute. Sorry, this is really petty. Let me. Oh yeah, chat is cut off. Chat's supposed to go up into the rafters, if you would. Okay, I'll have to check that later. That's not a big problem or anything. That's something that can be addressed later. Okay. Stave 2. The first of the three spirits. When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark that looking out of bed, he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from the opaque walls on his chamber. He was endeavoring to pierce the darkness with his ferret eyes when the chimes of the neighboring church struck the four quarters. So he listened for the hour.
To his great astonishment, the heavy bell went on for 6 to 7, and from 7 to 8, and the regular up to 12, and regularly up to 12, then stopped 12. It was past 2 when he went to bed. The clock was wrong. The icicle must have got into the works 12. He touched the spring of his repeater. To correct his most preposterous clock, its rapid little pulse beating 12, and stopped. Why, it isn't possible, said Scrooge, that I can have slept through a whole day and far into another night. It isn't possible that anything has happened to the sun. And this is 12 at noon. The idea being an alarming one, he scrambled out of bed, groped his way to the window. He was obliged to rub the frost off with the sleeve of his dressing gown before he could see anything, and could see very little then. All he could make out was that it was still very foggy and extremely cold, and there was no noise of people running to and fro and making a great stir, as there unquestionably would have been if night had beaten off bright day, and taken possession of the world. This was a great relief, because 3 days after sight of the first of exchange pay to Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge, or his order, and so forth, would have become a mere United States security if there was no days to count by. I don't know what the hell that means. Wait, I'm gonna need. I need to reread that for a moment. 3 days after the sight of this first of exchange pay to Ebenezer Scrooge, or his order, and so forth, would have become a mere United States security if there were no I don't. Would it become a mere United? I don't know what that means. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm a little addle-brained, because I always get addle-brained while reading, but I feel like it's obvious, but I just don't know. Or is this just a colloquial from the time period? Would have become a mere United States security if there were. I don't know. Let's not stick on it. Scrooge went to bed again, and thought it over and over and over, and could make nothing of it. The more he thought, the more perplexed he was, and the more he endeavored not to think, the more he thought. Marley's ghost bothered him exceedingly. Every time he resolved within himself, after mature inquiry, that it was all a dream, his mind flew back again, like a strong spring released, to its first position, and presented the same problem to be worked all through. Was it a dream or not? Scrooge lay in this state until the chime had gone 3/4 more. Then he remembered on a sudden that the ghost had warned him of a visitor when the bell tolled 1. He resolved to lie awake until the hour was past, and considering that he could no more go to sleep than go to heaven, this was perhaps the wisest resolution in his powers. The quarter was so long that he was more than once convinced he must have sunk into a doze unconsciously and missed the clock. At length it broke upon his listening ear. Ding dong. A quarter past, Scrooge said, counting. Ding dong. Half past, Scrooge said. Ding dong. A quarter to it, said Scrooge. Ding dong. The hour itself, said Scrooge triumphantly, and nothing else. He spoke before the hour bell sounded, which it now did, with a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy one. Light flashed in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn. The curtains of his bed were drawn aside, I tell you, by a hand, not the curtains at his feet, nor the curtains at his back, but those to his face was addressed. The curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge, starting up into a half recumbent, my God, what's wrong with me? Attitude, found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them, as close to it as I am now to you, and I am standing in the spirit at your elbow. It was a strange figure, like a child, not yet so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium, with which gave him the appearance of having receded from the view, and being diminished to a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle on it, and the tenderest bloom was on the skin. Arms were very long and muscular, the hands the same, as if its hold were of an uncommon strength. Its legs and feet, most delicately formed, were like those upper members bare. It wore a tunic on its purest white, and round its waist was bound a lustrous belt, the sheen of which was beautiful. It held a branch of a fresh green holly in its hand, and in a singular contradiction of that wintry emblem, had its dress trimmed with summer flowers. But the strangest thing about it was that from the crown of its head there was sprung a bright, clear jet of light, by which all this was visible, and which was doubtless the occasion of its using in its duller moments a great extinguisher for a cap which is now held under its arm. Even this, though, Scrooge looked at it with increasing steadiness. It was not its strangest quality, for as it for as its belt sparkled and glittered now in one part and now in another, and what was light one instant at another time was dark, so the figure itself fluctuated in its distinctness, being now a thing with one arm, now with one leg, now with 20 legs, now a pair of legs without a head, now a head without a body, of which dissolving parts now outline would be visible in the dense gloom wherein they melted away, and in the very wonder of this, it would be itself again distinct and clear as ever. Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me? Asked Scrooge. I am. The voice was soft and gentle, singularly low, as if instead of being so close beside him, it were at a distance. Who and what are you? Scrooge demanded. I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past? Inquired Scrooge, observant of its dwarfish structure. No, your past. Perhaps Scrooge could not have told anybody why, if anybody could have asked him. But he had a special desire to see the spirit with its cap, and begged him to be covered. What? Exclaimed the ghost. Would you so soon put out with worldly hands the light I give? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose passion made this cap and forced me through whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow? Scrooge Scrooge reverently, I don't know what the hell's wrong with me, reverently disclaimed all intention to offend or any knowledge of having willfully bonneted the spirit at any period in his life. He then made bold to inquire the business brought him there. Your welfare, said the ghost. Scrooge, expressing himself much obliged, but could not help thinking that a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end. The spirit must have heard him thinking, for it said immediately, Your reclamation, then, take heed. It put out its strong hand as it spoke, and clasped him gently by the arm. Rise, and walk with me. It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted to pedestrian purpose. The bed was warm, and the thermometer a long way below freezing. And I cannot put this down for some reason. There we go. A long way before freezing. That he was clad but lightly in his slippers, dressing gown, and nightcap. What the hell is going on out there? And that he had a cold upon him at the time. The grasp, though gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window, clasped his robes in supplication. I am a mortal, Scrooge remonstrated, and liable to fall. Bear but a touch of my hand there, said the spirit, laying it upon his heart, and you shall be upheld in more than this. As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road. There, with fields on other hand, the city had entirely vanished. Not a vestige of it was to be seen. The darkness and the mists had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. Good heaven, said Scrooge, clasping his hands together as he looked about him. I was bred in this place. I was a boy here. The spirit gazed upon him mildly. Its gentle touch, though it had been light and instantaneous, appeared still present to the old man's senses and feelings. He was conscious of the 1,000 odors floating in the air, each one connected with 1,000 thoughts and hopes and joys and cares long, long forgotten. Your lip is trembling, said the ghost. And what is that upon your cheek? Scrooge muttered, with an unusual catching in his voice, that it was a pimple, and begged the ghost to lead him where he would. You recollect the way? Inquired the ghost. Remember it, cried Scrooge with fervor. I could walk it blindfolded. Strange to have forgotten it for so many years, observed the ghost. Let us go in. They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until a little marked town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and its winding river. Some shaggy ponies now were seen trotting towards them, with boys upon their backs, who called to other boys in country gigs and carts driven by farmers. All these boys were in great spirit, and shouted to each other until the broad fields were so full of merry music that the crisp air laughed to hear it. These are but shadows of the things that have been, said the ghost. They have no consciousness of us. The jocund travelers came on, and as they came, Scrooge knew and named them every one. Why was he rejoiced beyond bounds to see them? Why did this cold eye glisten and his heart leap up as they went past? Why was he filled with gladness when he heard them give each other Merry Christmas as they parted at crossroads and byways for their several homes? Why was Merry Christmas what was Merry Christmas to Scrooge out upon Merry Christmas? What good had it ever done to him? The school is not quite deserted, said the ghost. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still. Scrooge said he knew it, and he sobbed. They left the high road by a well-remembered lane and soon approached the mansion of dull red brick with a little weathercoat summoned cupola on the roof and a bell hanging in it. It was a large house, but one of broken fortunes, for the spacious offices were little used, their walls were damp and mossy, their windows broken, and their gates decayed. Fowls clucked and strutted in the stables, and the coach houses and the sheds were overrun with grass. Nor was it more retentive, that's an easy word. Why did I struggle on that? Retentive of the ancient state within, for entering the dreary hall and glancing through the open doors of many rooms, they found them poorly furnished, cold and vast. There was an earthly savor in the air, a chilly bareness in the place, which associated itself somehow with too much getting up by candlelight and too much to eat. They went the ghost and Scrooge across the hall to the door at the back end of the house. It opened before them and disclosed a long, bare, melancholy room, made bare still by the lines and plain I think I just realized something. Plain deal foam desk. At once of these lonely boys reading near feeble fire, Scrooge sat down upon the form and wept to see his poor forgotten self as he used to be. I just remembered something about the audio. I need to check it real quick. I don't remember how to. Mike. Okay. Okay. No. Okay. Nope. I put a delay on the mic in the past, and I didn't remember if I ever took it off. That's all. Forgotten. Did he? Okay. Not a latent echo in the house, not a squeak and scuffle from the mice behind the paneling, not a drip from the half-thawed waterspout in the dull yard behind, not a sigh among the leafless boughs of one despondent poplar, not the idle swinging of the empty storehouse door, no, not a clicking in the fire, but fell upon the heart of Scrooge with a softening influence, and gave freer the passage of his tears. The spirit touched him on the arm, and pointed to his younger self, intent upon his reading. Suddenly a man in foreign garments, wonderfully real and distinct to look at, stood outside the window, with an axe stuck to his belt, and leading by the bridle an ass laden with wood. I have to say that weird because YouTube. Why, it's Ali Baba! Scrooge exclaimed in ecstasy. It's dear old honest Ali Baba! Yes, I know. One Christmas time when yonder solitary child was left here all alone, he did come for the first time, just like that, poor boy! And Valentine, said Scrooge, and his wild brother Orson. There they go, and that's his name. who was put down in his drawers, asleep at the gate of Damascus. Don't you see him? And the Sultan's groom turned upside down by the genie. There he is upon his head. Serve him right, I'm glad of it. What business had he to be married to the princess? To hear Scrooge expending all the earnestness of his nature on such subjects in a most extraordinary voice, between laughing and crying, and to see his heightened and excited face, would have been surprise to his business friends in the city indeed. There's the parrot, cried Scrooge. Green body and yellow tail, with a thing like a lettuce growing from the top of its head. There he is! Poor Robin Crusoe, he called him. Oh, when he came home again after sailing around the island. Poor Robin Crusoe, where have you been, Robin Crusoe? The man thought he was dreaming, but he wasn't. It was the parrot. You know, there goes Friday running for his life to the little creek. Hello! Whoop! Hello! Then, with rapidity of transition very foreign to his usual character, he stood in pity for the former self. Poor boy, he cried again. I wish, Scrooge muttered, putting his hand in his pocket and looking about him after drying his eyes with his cuff. But it's too late now. He's becoming Gaelic. I don't care if Scrooge is becoming Gaelic, I've just noticed. What's the matter? Asked the spirit. Nothing, said Scrooge. Nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should like to have given him something, that's all. The ghost smiled thoughtfully and waved its hand, saying as it did so, Let us see another Christmas. Scrooge's former self grew larger at the words, and the room became a little darker and more dirty. The panels shrunk, the windows cracked, fragments of the plaster fell off the ceiling, and naked lathes were shown instead. But how all this was brought about, Scrooge knew no more than you do. He only knew that it was quite correct, that everything had happened so, that there he was alone again when all the other boys had gone home for the jolly holidays. He was reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. He was not reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. Scrooge looked at the ghost, and with the mournful shaking of his head, glanced anxiously towards the door. It opened, and a little girl, much younger than the boy, came darting in, and putting her arms about his neck, and often kissing him, addressed him as her dear brother. Why she has a southern accent, I don't know. I have come, to bring you home, dear brother, said the child, clapping her tiny hands and bending down and laughing. To bring you home, home. Home, little fan, returned the boy. Yes, said the child, brimful in glee. Home for good and all, home for ever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be, that home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me. Oh, one dear night, when I was going to bed, that I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home, and he said yes, you should, and sent me to a coach to bring you, and you're to be a man, said the child, opening the door, and are never to come back here, but first we're to be together all Christmas long, and have the merriest time in all the world. You are quite the woman, little fan, exclaimed the boy. She clapped her hands and laughed. and tried to touch his head, but being too little, laughed again, stood on tiptoe to embrace him. Then she began to drag him, in her childish eagerness, towards the door, and he, nothing loath to go, accompanied her. A terrible voice in the hall cried, "Bring down the Master Scrooge's books!" And in all the hall appeared the schoolmaster himself, who glared on Master Scrooge with a ferocious condescension, and threw him into a dreadful state of mind by shaking hands with him. He then conveyed him and his sister into the veriest old well of a shivering best parlor that ever was seen, where the maps upon the wall and the celestial and terrestrial globes in the windows would waxy with cold. Here he produced a decanter of curiously light wine, and a block of curiously heavy cake, and administered installments of those dainties to the young people, at the same time sending out a meagre servant to offer a glass of something to the postboy, who answered that he thanked the gentleman, but if it was the same tap he had tasted before, he'd rather not. Master Scrooge's trunk being by this time tied on top of the chase, the children bade the schoolmaster goodbye right willingly, and made into it, drove gaily down the garden sweep, and quick wheels dashing in hoarfrost and snow from off the dark leaves of the evergreens like spray. Always a delicate creature, whom the breath might have withered, said the ghost, but she had a large heart. So she had, cried Scrooge. You're right, I will not gainsay in spirit, God forbid. She died a woman, said the ghost, and had, as I think, children. One child, Scrooge returned. True, said the ghost. A nephew. Scrooge seemed uneasy in his mind, and answered briefly, Yes. Although they had but the moment left to the school behind them, they were now in the busy thoroughfares of the city, where the shadowy passengers passed and repassed, and where the shadowy carts and coaches battled for the way, and all the strife and tumult of the real city were. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here too it was Christmas time again. But it was evening and the streets were lighted up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it. Know it, said Scrooge. I was apprenticed here. They went in at sight of an old gentleman with a Welsh wig sitting behind such a high desk that if he... Okay, I thought I had a connection issue. That if he had 2 inches taller, he must have knocked his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement, Why, it's old Fezziwig! Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig live again! Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed at the hour of 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his capacious waistcoat, and laughed all over himself, from his shoes to his organ of benevolence, and called out in comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice. I don't know what a Welsh accent sounds like. Yo-ho! There, Ebenezer! Dick! I'm giving him a Gaelic accent. Sorry, Welsh people. Scrooge's former self, now grown a man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice. Dick Wilkins, to be sure, said Scrooge to the ghost. Bless me, yes, That he is. He was very much attached to me. Oh, was Dick. Poor Dick. Dear, dear. Yo-ho, my boys, said Fezziwig. No more working tonight in Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas Eve, Christmas Ebenezer, let's have a shutters up, cried Fezziwig with a sharp clap of his hands before a man can say Jack Robinson. That's peaking the mic, I'm sorry. I don't even need to check to know me doing that peaks the mic. You wouldn't believe how those two fellows went at it. That he changed into the streets with the shutters. 1, 2, 3, had them up in their places. 4, 5, 6, barred them and pinned them. 7, 8, 9, and came back before they could have got to 12, panting like racehorses. Hilly-ho! Cried old Fezziwig, skipped down from the high desk. I don't even know what his voice is anymore. With a wonderful agility. Clear away, my lads, and let's have a lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick. Cheer up, Ebenezer. Clear away. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away, or couldn't have cleared away with an old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off, as if were dismissed from public life forevermore. So I wanted to do the Raven voice for that. The floor was swept and watered, the lamps were trimmed, the fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was a snug and warm and dry and bright ballroom as you would desire to see upon winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it and tuned like 50 stomach aches. What? Oh no. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came the 6 young followers, who hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with the brother's particular friend, the milkman. In came the boy from over the way, who was susceptible of not having board enough from his master, trying to hide himself behind the girl from next door, but one who was proved to have heard her ears pulled by her mistress. In they all came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow, and everyhow, away they all went, 20 couple at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round, the various stages of affectionate grouping. Old top couple always turning on the wrong place, new top couple starting off again as soon as they got there, all top couples at last, and not a bottom one to help them. When this result was brought about, old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop the dance, cried out, "Well done!" And the fiddler plunged his hot face into a pot of porter especially provided for that purpose. But the scorning rests upon his reappearance. He instantly began again, though there were no dancers yet, as if the other fiddler had been carried home, exhausted on the shutter, and he, a brand new man, resolved to beat him out of sight or perish. There would be more dances, and there were forfeits, and more dances, and there was cake, and there was negus, and there was a great piece of cold roast, and there was a great piece of cold boiled, and there was minced pies and plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening came after roast and boiled, when the fiddler, an artful dog mind, and sort of man who knew his business better than you or I could ever have told him, struck up Sir Roger de Coverley. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig, top couple too, with a good stiff piece of work cut out of them, 3 or 4 and 20 pairs of partners, people who were not to be trifled with, people who would dance and had not notion of walking. It's weird how some of these I'm going through really cleanly, and other paragraphs I'm like struggling with. I don't know why that is. Ah! But if they had been twice as many, 4 times, old Fezziwig would have been a match for them, and so would Miss Fezziwig. As to her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me higher, and I'll use it. A positive light appeared to issue from Fezziwig's calves. Okay, they shone in every part of his dance like moons. It's becoming an anime. You couldn't have predicted at any given time that what would have become of them next. And when old Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig had gone all through the dance, advance and retire, both hands to their partner, bow and curtsy, corkscrew, thread the needle, and back again to our place. Fezziwig cut so deftly that he appeared to wink with his legs, and came upon his feet without standing. Hold up. I literally need to see if this is a thing. Anime Christmas Carol. Is there an anime Christmas Carol? I don't think there is. That makes me disappointed. I want an anime Christmas Carol. Okay. When the clock struck 11, his domestic ball... I actually need to switch back to Twitch because I cannot see Twitch without that. Okay. When the clock struck 11, his domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas. When everybody had retired but the 2 apprentices, I don't know why they took off the they did the same to them, and thus the cheerful voices died away, and the lads were left to their beds, which were under counter in the back shop. During the whole of this time Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene, and with his former self he corroborated everything, remembered everything, enjoyed everything, and underwent the strangest agitation. It was not until now, when the bright faces of his former self and Dick were turned from them, that he remembered the ghost, and became conscious that it was looking full upon him, while the light upon its head burnt very clearly. "A small matter," said the ghost, "to make these silly folks so full of gratitude." "Small?" echoed Scrooge. The spirit signed to him to listen to the 2 apprentices, who were pouring out their hearts in praise of Fezziwig, and when he had done so, said, "Why, is it not? He was spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that not so much that he deserves this praise?" "It isn't that," said Scrooge, heated by the remark, and speaking unconsciously like his former, not his latter self. It isn't that, spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks, in things so slight and insignificant that it is impossible to add and count them up. What then? Eh? What then? The happiness he gives is is as great as it costs a fortune. He felt the spirit's glance and stopped. What is the matter? Asked the ghost. Nothing particular, said Scrooge. Something, I think. The ghost insisted. No, said Scrooge. No, I should look to be able to say a word or two of my clerk just now, that's all. His former self turned down the lamps as he gave utterance to the wish, and Scrooge and the ghost again stood side by side in the open air. My time grows short, observed the spirit. Quick! This was not addressed to Scrooge, or to anyone whom he could see, but produced an immediate effect. For again Scrooge saw himself. He was older now, a man in the prime of his life. His face had not the harsh and rigid lines of later years, but it had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. So there was an eager, greedy, restless motion in the eye, which showed the passion that had taken root, and where the shadow of the growing tree would fall. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl in a mourning dress, in whose eyes there were tears, which sparkled in the light that shone out of the ghost of Christmas past. Oh. It matters little, she said softly, to you, very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if I can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve. What idol has displaced you? He rejoined. A golden one. This is an even-handed dealing of the world, he said. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth. You fear the world too much, she answered gently. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your noble aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion gain engrosses you. Have I not? What then? He retorted. Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you. She shook her head. Am I? Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until, in good season, we could improve our worldly fortune by our patience and industry. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man. I was a boy, he replied impatiently. Your own feeling tells you that you were not what you are, she returned. I am. Which promised happiness when we were one in heart is fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this. I would not say it is enough that I have thought of it and can release you. I have ever sought release. Have I ever sought release? In words, no, never. In what then? In a changed nature, in the altered spirit, in other atmosphere of life, another hope, as its great end, in everything that made my love of any worth of value in your sight. If this had never been between us, said the girl, looking mildly but with steadiness upon him, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now? Ah, no. He seemed to yield to the justice of this supposition in spite of himself, but he said with a struggle, you think not? I would gladly think otherwise if I could, she answered. Heaven knows, would I have learned a truth when I have learned a truth like this, I know, I know how strong and irresistible it must be. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? You who, in your very confidence with her, weigh everything by gain, or choosing her, if for a moment, for more moment you were false enough to your one guiding principle to do so, to do I not know what your repentance and regret would surely follow? I do, and I release you with a full heart for the love of him you once were. Yeah. I'm gonna start pre-reading these before stream. Like, I was listening to like an audio book of this, but I'm gonna just read these before stream, even if it takes time. He was about to speak, but with her head turned from him, she resumed, "You may. The memory of what is past half makes me hope you will have pain in this a very, very brief time, and yeah, and you will dismiss the recollection of it gladly as an unprofitable dream from which it happened well and you awoke. May you be happy in life you have chosen." She left him, and they parted. Spirit, said Scrooge, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me? One shadow more, exclaimed the ghost. No more, cried Scrooge. No more. I don't wish to see it. Show me no more. But the relentless ghosts pinioned him in both his arms and forced him to observe what happened next. They were in another scene and place. A room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. Near to the winter fire sat a beautiful girl. Thank you, by the way, for saying that I'm doing fine. Um, Sat a beautiful girl, so like that last that Scrooge believed it was the same until he saw her, now a comely matron, sitting opposite her daughter. The noise in this room was perfectly tumultuous, for there were more children there than Scrooge in his agitated state of mind could count, and unlike the celebrated herd in the poem, they were not 40 children conducting themselves like one, but Everty. Oh, but Everty isn't even a word. But every child was conducting itself like 40. The consequences were uproarious beyond belief, but no one seemed to care. On the contrary, the mother and daughter laughed heartily and enjoyed it very much, and the latter, soon beginning to mingle in the sports, got pillaged by the young brigands most ruthlessly. What would I not have given to be one of them? Though I never could have been so rude. No, no, I wouldn't for the wealth of all the world have crushed that braided hair and torn it down. And for the precious little shoe, I wouldn't have plucked it off. God bless my soul to save my life. As to measuring her waists in sport, as they did, bold young brood. I couldn't have done it. I should have expected my arm to have grown round. It would have grown round it for punishment, and never come straight again. And yet I should have dearly liked, I own, to have touched her lips, to have questioned her, that she might have opened them, to have looked upon the lashes of her downcast eyes, and never raised a blush, to have let loose waves of hair, an inch of which would be the cheapest beyond price. In beyond I should have liked, I do confess, to have had the lightest license of a child, and yet to have beyond a man enough to know its value. I'm gonna take a drink. Well, other than when I take, my head doesn't move, but when I take a drink, sometimes my entire body raises. But the knocking at the door was heard, and such a rush immediately ensued that she, with laughing face and plundered dress, was borne towards it, and towards the center, a flushed and boisterous group, just in time to greet the father, who came home attended by a man laden with Christmas toys and presents. Then the shouting and the struggling and the onslaught that was made on the defenseless porter, the scaling him with the chairs for ladders to dive into his pockets, despoil him of brown paper parcels, hold on tight by the cravat, hug him, not hung, hug him round his neck, pummel his back, and kick his legs with irrepressible affection. The shouts of wonder and delight with such a development, and every package was received their terrible announcement that the baby had taken in the act of putting doll's frying pan into its mouth, and was more than suspected of having swallowed a fictitious turkey glued on a wooden platter. The immense relief of finding this a false alarm, the joy and gratitude and ecstasy, they are all indescribable alike. It is enough that by degrees the children and their emotions got out of the parlor, and by one stair at a time, up to the top of the house, where they went to bed, and so subsided. And now Scrooge looked on more attentively than ever, when the master of the house, having his daughter leaning fondly on him, sat down with her and her mother at his own fireside. Mother at his own fireside. I don't know why I added a word. Uh, and when he thought that such another creature, quite as graceful and full of promise, might have called him father, and been a springtime in the haggard winter of his life, his sight grew very dim indeed. Belle, said the husband, turning to his wife with a smile, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon. Who was it? Guess. How can I? Tut, don't I know? She added in the same breath, laughing as he laughed. Mr. Scrooge. Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window, and as it was not shut up, and he had a candle inside, I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies upon the point of death, I hear, and there he sat alone, quite alone in the world, I do believe. Spirit, Scrooge said in a broken voice, remove me from this place. I told you these were shadows of the things that have been, said the ghost. That they are what they are. Do not blame me. Remove me, Scrooge exclaimed. I cannot bear it. He turned upon the ghost, and seeing that it looked upon him with a face in which in some strange way there were fragments of all the faces he had shown him, wrestled with it. Leave me, take me back, haunt me no longer. And the struggle, if that can be called a struggle, in which the ghost, with no visible resistance on its own part, was undisturbed by any effort of its adversary, Scrooge observed that its light was burning high and bright, and the dimly connecting that with the influence over him, he seized the extinguisher cap and by a sudden action pressed it down upon his head. The spirit dropped beneath it, so that the extinguisher covered its whole form. But though Scrooge pressed down with all his force, he could not hide the light which streamed from under it in an unbroken flood upon the floor. He was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by irresistible drowsiness, and further of being in his own bedroom. He gave the cap parting squeeze, in which his hand relaxed, and had barely time to reel to the bed before he sank into heavy sleep. Oh, that's it. That's the end of the chapter. We had about 2 hours. I think we're at about halfway in the story. Literally, like, we can see right here, we're halfway in the story. So I think that's actually the perfect time to cut off. Looks like it's going to take us 4 hours in total to read it. Which, ain't the best, because it is like a 3-hour story, but, you know, that's okay. But I think, you guys want to do HoloCure now? You guys want to shift over to HoloCure? Ah. Actually, I'm gonna have to put up and explain. Okay. And I didn't turn it on. Okay, let's put that down here. HoloCure, let's go. Okay. We're gonna talk about what we read, but also there's something else I want to talk about. So what we read, then there's plans for next year, and the watch along. Okay. Those are 3 things I want to talk about, so I just want to write those down, just so I don't forget them while setting everything up. Okay. So, stream game. I don't know how much of HoloCure we're gonna do. But we're gonna do some HoloCure. Let's see here. Oh, also I need to switch it to HoloCure on Twitch, because I can do that. I'm having a stroke. Let's see here. I'm just gonna keep the title because it's gonna look really weird. The title on Twitch is just reading a Christmas Carol. So having it be played HoloCure, just that'll make people click on it, surely. Okay. Game. See here, HoloCure. And I think reading is blocking it. Okay. And I don't think we have... Do we even have her unlocked? Oh, thank God, we have Iris unlocked. I don't think we have her outfit, though. It did not tell us to select an outfit. Can we buy her outfit? Let us check, chat. No. Character gotcha. Probably not. Wait, we can roll for her outfit. How do we not have our crony? Anyways, yeah, let's just roll for it. We have 10,000. We can be charitable. We got bales. Okay. Come on, big money. We got bales again. We ain't gonna get it. If we didn't get Hachima after rolling
over 70 times. We're not gonna get the Christmas outfit, but we're still gonna roll for it is the thing, you know? I mean, what else are we gonna do with those? We got Auru? Why do I use her? Ah, it doesn't matter. We got Iris again, but we want her Christmas outfit. If we rolled for Hachima for 70, there's no reason we're not gonna roll 10 times and waste our money going for Iris. It's just the law. We're very irresponsible. I mean, like, look at these upgrades. We could have gotten like this and this, and who cares though? We could have like increased our attack or something. That's for nerds. Okay, we're VTubers, okay? Gambling is in our blood, okay? Being bad at math and gambling, it's the nature of things. Ooh. Ah. Yeah. I do find it, I think it's just the grammar or like the writing style of Dickens. Because like there are some parts that like I flowed with really well and other parts that I don't flow with too great. Ooh. I just think it's this, I just think certain writing style, like certain writing approaches for me personally, just like either really meld with me, like reading out loud or don't. And it's just like Dickens, it's kind of like a mix for some reason. Did you see the Christmas special where Mokoko did Iris hip swing? Ooh. No, I saw their karaoke stream, but I was actually listening to it. But I didn't see any 3D concerts now. Ooh. Actually, I tuned into very little VTubing on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. The only, I think the only streams I tuned into were one of my Oshis of Tomoyo Mari, and I also tuned in. I think it was the, oh no, Ari had a gorilla stream, I think, or was it planned? I can't remember if her stream was a gorilla or planned on Christmas Day. But she just played really bad Flash games. They were doing charades. Ooh. I'm sorry, I missed it then. Ooh, what? Hopefully it still has a VOD. If it, provided they didn't do any singing, it should still be VODed. Ooh. Is it? I do like how Hololive as a company does give an opportunity for like everyone to have pretty decent tracking and get together with 3D models fairly often, because that stuff can be expensive, and a lot of times you're just like, well, how often am I going to use a 3D model? So if you're not 3D all the time, sometimes it's just like economical to be, you know, just stick to 2D. But in a company, you don't have to worry about that as much. It's costs and benefits of a company, but one of the biggest benefits is the fact that you are not having to foot the bill for, you know, your own model and whatnot, provided you're not in Niji Sanji. As we found out with Niji Sanji, you pretty much have to pay for everything yourself in that company. I don't know really what the purpose of Niji Sanji is at all. I know that they keep their talents by, you know, making predatory contracts that are completely illegal even in Japan. However, to challenge them on that, you'd have to, you know, get a lawyer and whatnot, which is just a pain in the ass. So they, you know, just keep through intimidation. Just absolute crap company. Ooh. But Hololive doesn't seem to have those issues. Ooh. And hopefully it never will. I don't think it's ever going to be that bad at Hololive, but with it going public, I know a lot of people are always concerned with its interests or values changing over time, which is very valid. A lot of companies go public and, you know, in the long term it doesn't really do great, but at the same time, a lot of times the companies, to get that initial cash to be where they are, part of the contract with like the people who lend them the cash is literally they have to go public after a certain point in time. Ooh, which is always annoying. It's like making a deal with the devil kind of thing. Ooh. He's actually holding up pretty well so far. Then again, this is just the first level. Ooh. But I don't know why I forgot, but I forgot about the part where the ghost shows Scrooge the family he, like effectively the family he never had. You know, with where Belle ended up and whatnot. I don't know why I forgot about that part. Ooh. I especially don't know why I forgot about that part, because I literally re-listened to the Christmas Carol like just over the weekend to prep for this. Ooh. I think I was stuck in traffic though, and I think I was more focused on that at the time. Ooh. Okay. Actually, one of my favorite parts is just visually speaking in the story. I know it's weird to say visually, but just the part where they describe the like room getting older. How they describe a lot of times like the transitions in the time travel, so to speak. I think a lot of times those are, it's very dreamlike and haunting in some aspects, but it's also kind of like something you can very quickly imagine, just like the room getting old, like the room itself getting older, you know, the plaster falling from the ceiling. It's a very nice touch. He doesn't just go, oh hey, I saw myself get older. He describes the world itself changing around them. Ooh. Were those always flowers? I just don't know what was changed in the last update anymore. Yeah. Ooh. I was very concerned with doing a woman's voice because I don't think I can do women's voices very well. Ooh. But I'll say it did turn out better than I thought. Ooh. I was actually thinking of actually asking a friend or two to do the female voices of it, like to do recordings for me, but I realized it's too short a notice and it would be really rude to ask them over, you know, over Christmas and Christmas Eve. Oh, hey, can you do a recording for me? I was like, I should just do the women's voices myself and just, you know, shut up. Ooh. I was really, really dreading doing the female voices just because this is, I don't really know. There's some voices you're like, I think I know what I sound like when I'm doing this voice. Doing any feminine voice, I have no idea how I sound like in that moment. I don't know if I'm sounding soft-spoken or like Dr. Girlfriend from the Venture Brothers in all seriousness. Like, I have no idea how those are coming across. I'm gonna have to go back in the audio, and I'm just gonna hope. Oh no! I was gonna say I'm gonna have to hope there's no more women in the story. Merrick, misogynist confirmed. But no, I just remembered. Cratchit's wife. I don't know if his daughters have any speaking roles, but his wife comes up. I might do a Miss Piggy voice for his wife. I can do a Miss Piggy, or at least I know how to do a Miss Piggy. I can't do it well, but I know a Miss Piggy because a Miss Piggy is a feminine Yoda. How I discovered this is because I realized that Fred Burger from Venture Brothers, from Grim Adventures Ability and Mandy, is a stupid Yoda. You know, you have like, you know, Fred Burger. And then like that made me realize, oh wait a second, he just sounds like Yoda but stupid, you know? Funny joke. And then I was just like, wait, Miss Piggy is literally just the same voice again, but just feminine. Like, oh, Kermie! Like, it's all the same. Though I think actually, but they're all very similar voices. Ooh. That if you know how to do one, you can transition to the other one okay. So I might just do a Miss Piggy voice for Cratchit's wife. But I am looking forward to doing the Ghost of Christmas Present. Just because, I mean, it's just a fun voice to do. Just, he's a big jolly dude. It's always fun to do big jolly dude voices. It's really in like those extended paragraphs of like where things are being described, where like I really flub up. I really find those are the spots where I kind of stumble a bit in the overall. Because even in the dialogue I do fine. I can usually emote fine from what I understand. Also, Was it? Oh, the bit of foreshadowing. I didn't really think about it because it's not until like you go into like the reread once or twice you go like, oh, that's foreshadowing. It's the fact that how it said that. I think what is it said exactly that Scrooge said that the presence of Marley feels strangely familiar or something like that. No, it's when Marley sits down in the chair next to him. He says that like Marley does it like in a way that felt like that looks strangely like, you know, just like a very casual action, like he's done it a bunch of times before. And then it's revealed like, oh yeah, he's just been sitting here with Scrooge for like the last 7 years, like probably more often than not. Give me the money. Ooh. And because I said that, I actually forgot the other point I actually really wanted to talk about. Oh. I remember as a kid always finding the puppet for, what is it, the Ghost of Christmas Past to be terrifying. Because it looked like an old child creature monster. So, for the first time, not tonight of course, but the first time I ever, you know, like read the story, I was like, oh my god, that's actually probably the most accurate depiction of the thing. It's just this dwarfish little creature. That's just like, it is old but young. Oh god, it is an ever-shifting thing. Oh, sorry, the Muppet Christmas Carol. The Muppet Christmas Carol. The puppet in a Muppet Christmas Carol is probably the, like, is actually kind of accurate to the description of the Ghost of Christmas Past, in a way. Of how it's this very ethereal creature, and that, like, seems both old and young at once, and is kind of, in all honesty, a little terrifying. I was trying to do, when I was doing the voice, it was kind of based off of the Muppet version of the, of it. It is so creepy. It is, oh god. It's definitely one of those things from my childhood where I rank it as like pure nightmare fuel. I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. We're watching it on Saturday, but I'm not gonna have a trouble with it now but like as a kid, I was just like, this thing is just, I hate looking at it. Kind of like E.T. when I was young. I hated E.T. I was terrified of E.T. He was a little alien goblin, man. He haunted my dreams, man. He was up there with the xenomorph from Alien. That's how terrified I was of E.T. And my grandma thought for some reason I loved E.T. That I thought E.T. was the best shit ever. And I never had the heart to tell her I was terrified as hell of E.T. because I have AstraZenephobia. I love E.T. now. I adore E.T. as a film. It is a fantastic film. But I was unreasonably terrified of that thing when I was a kid. And I just did not have the heart to tell my grandma that I was terrified of it, so we would just sometimes watch the movie, and I would just be terrified while watching it, and have to keep a straight face, because I didn't want to offend my grandmama. But E.T. is an excellent movie. If I could find a reason to do a watch-along with it, I would love to. If we did a ROM hack of E.T. video game, the worst game ever made, one of the worst games ever made. Sadly, we can no longer say it's the worst game, which is a hell of a thing to be in that stage of gaming. But I honestly, I'd be willing to do the ROM hack of that godforsaken travesty if it meant we could watch E.T. afterwards. Oh my god. Which one of these need an enchantment? There we go. Oh, I can do this multiple times. How many times can it? Oh, only 2. Okay. Ooh. See here. Okay. I'm actually getting quite a few anvils for not having the upgrade. I remember reading they buried. Yeah, they couldn't sell them, so they just kind of threw them away, and they just kind of made like makeshift landfills for them. I remember, was it like the early 2010s or late 2000s? Some people were breaking ground, and they discovered them and they discovered one of like the sites where they buried a bunch by accident. Like they were just like, they're like some city was expanding, so they broke ground, and they found just a bunch of cartridges of ET underground. There's always a myth. People are like, was it true? And then it's just like, yes, it was. We found the treasure of old. The horrid, horrid treasure of old. ET was like the first big shovelware, and we haven't really gone up from there. Oh my god. Ooh. Has there been good shovelware? I don't know. I feel like if it's good, it by definition can't be shovelware at that point. Ooh. Ooh. Actually, one part I'm really looking forward to the watch along on Friday is the fact that the Muppet Christmas Carol has a lot of lines taken directly from the movie, especially because they have Gonzo playing Charles Dickens as the narrator, so they can just like literally just have a narration, they can just have Gonzo narrating parts, do transitions and whatnot for flow, which benefits the movie immensely. Hold on, let's get another upgrade. Oh, no, we want this. And but because of that, they're able to add even more lines from the book. Actually, recently I was watching The Storyteller, which is a Jim Henson production, and the Storyteller is literally just a guy telling stories, and then they use real actors and puppets, to, tell the stories to the audience, like to visualize the stories for the audience. And it really feels like, having been watching The Storyteller a little, that the Muppet Christmas Carol is almost like a culmination of that project, especially considering that Jim Henson's brother actually played the dog in The Storyteller, and it was Jim Henson's brother who, I don't know if he produced or directed, but he was heavily involved in A Muppet Christmas Carol, and The Muppet Christmas Carol was actually made in memoriam to Jim Henson, who had died, was it the year before or earlier that year, who had passed away, because he was like, I got pneumonia, I'll be fine, and he wasn't fine. He was like, I got a cough, it'll clear up. It did not clear up. Oh my god. I've seen a lot of people like dog on like Jim Henson for that, but like at the same time, like, when have you like never, like, every guy, that's just true of every guy, let's be honest. Like, it's like, I'm sick, I'll wait a month. And how many times have we been sick where it's just like, yeah, we could have died in that month easily, but we were just too stubborn to go to the doctor. People are like, oh, he believed in new healing or something. It's like that. It's like, no, new healing beliefs or whatever, like holistics. I don't know what he believed in. I don't know if any of that is true. He was a dude. He was a dude. He died from being a dude. He was like, go to the hospital. Nah, dude. Why would I do that? Go to the hospital if you're sick, chat. That is actually a real thing. Statistically, men don't go to the hospital because they're just like, I'll sleep it off, and then they die. If you have blood in your pee, go to the hospital. If you're coughing up blood, go to the hospital. You're not gonna sleep it off. And don't say, I slept it off last time. You shouldn't have. You freak. Seek medical help. Oh god. This message is brought to you by VTubers for Healthy Living. Oh god. Oh god, it's always faunas. You know shit's getting serious. When fauna saplings enter, because they're just tanky as hell. They're even tankier than the tacos. Oh, and there's so many of them when they get introduced. You know what? I've not been using her special at all because she is such a powerhouse, but I really should be. I'm pretty sure in every version he doesn't talk. But I do like, pretty much just how the Ghost of Christmas Future is just the Grim Reaper, and he's just a dude standing there and just points to things. That's all he does. Oh, urine is the acidic. I could, melt glass. Damn! You might want to get that checked out. You might want to go to a doctor. On the subject of going to the doctor, you might want to check that dude. That's nuts, like you. Ooh. But I do like in the Muppet Christmas Carol how they make the Ghost of Christmas Future both terrifying but also a little goofy for like the children, so he's not taken too seriously. Because, like, even though he's a big specter that's super scary, ooh, even though he's this big specter that's really scary looking, they give him, like, super long orangutan arms, and he's just like, I don't know if I can take it all that seriously, because, like, that's not a Grim Reaper, that's Clyde the orangutan. Ooh. I saw him in a movie with Burt Reynolds. He was driving a golf cart. Oh. I think the hardest one is the first Christmas past with the multi-flame head of something like the book. I was actually saying earlier how in the Muppet Christmas Carol has a really accurate. What does this do? I make spoiled water. I make the water of Flint, Michigan. I call upon you, protect me. But yeah, it's actually like kind of crazy how like that's actually one of the more accurate depictions, but that one is also kind of terrifying. Like by making it accurate, they made the Ghost of Christmas Past in the Muppet movie a little terrifying. Just a bit. Just a wee lad bit. See here. I don't know which one I want. I don't need the feather. I'm gonna die now because I said that. But I thought I had to be level 50 to unlock collabs. Is it level 40? Huh. But we've only read about halfway through, so we're gonna do the other half of the reading tomorrow, which I'm excited for. Actually, my accent with Scrooge went all over the place, at least from my perspective. I felt his voice changed so much throughout that story, and I had no intention of doing that, but it kind of changed in a positive sense because he went from very gruff and I'm an old bastard to kind of lightening up throughout it. So it kind of turned out, oh well. Oh well, okay. Please die, please die. Okay. Ooh. 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 Actually, I'm really happy that, I've said that we're gonna have a guest on for the watch-along, and I think I can at this point confirm that we're gonna have a guest on for the watch-along, which makes me very happy because I think it'll make it for the first watch-along that we're gonna have a +1. And tomorrow I will, announce who that +1 is. Ooh, I'll probably announce it with the stream, oh god, of the watch-along for Saturday. Come on, die. Die so I can roll, so I can gamble more. Let's see here. Uber sheep. Yeah. Oh. I do not remember the lore of why there are Grimace, Babus, or whatever her dog's name is. I can't remember it, man. I just know I'm disturbed every time I see him. Please don't kill me. Please do not kill me with your titanic butt. She is so small, but her butt is so big. She must be Hispanic. Actually, wait a minute, she is. As it was revealed when she left Hololive, she is Hispanic. Oh god. Jokes imitate life. Wait, money? Oh, we got... Oh, I didn't know we didn't already have that. Let's gamble. I went past it, didn't I? I went past it. Let's roll, let's roll, let's roll. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. No. We got an alternate outfit for Bales. We accidentally clicked through it, which is really cool. But we want an alternate... We want the Santa outfit for her. Come on, come on, come on, come on. That's good. We're leveling her up technically by getting her, but we want Santa. They're mocking me now. By the power of Santa Claus. That is the power of ditties, and I appreciate it, but I want Santa. That is... I'll buy Santa if I have to. I'm gonna buy Santa. I can't buy Santa. I think I still need 1,000. This is evil. This is evil. They're mocking me, chat. I am $34 short, or hollow coin short, of having Santa. We'll buy Santa at the end of stream. We'll do one more stage, and then we'll buy Santa and end stream. But other things to talk about. Ooh. The plans for next year. I'm probably going to do several endurance streams playing Kingdom Come Deliverance, because I found out from another VTuber that it apparently is coming out in February. I was going to wait and do it kind of like a companion piece to Red Dead Redemption 2. 1 week doing long streams for Red Dead Redemption 2, then the next week doing long streams for Kingdom Come Deliverance. But I did not know it comes out in February, so we're gonna push that forward a little. And it's probably gonna be a little brutal for me. But it's okay, because we're just gonna do a stream every, I think probably one stream a week that's just 12 hours. It'll be fine. I'll find the time. I'll just cannibalize my weekends. What are those used for anyways? Ooh. But I am actually hoping for a collab in January, and actually February too, now that I think about it, with a certain someone who I've been trying to literally collab with for I think the last 5 months. But it's just shit keeps coming up. But hopefully those have been planned out so far ahead that there won't be problems this time. Let's see here. Oh. So this next month is gonna, I'm not quite sure. It was gonna be for JRPGs, but I just don't think I have time to do that anymore. Ooh. I think I'm just gonna have to refocus to Kingdom Come Deliverance, so I can get through that before the sequel releases. Oh, don't do this to me. And it's gonna be pretty calm to start out the year. We're just gonna do like a year in review. Probably just gonna like look at Gunpla and then like look at streams or games. Probably streams in general. So that way we can talk about games and streams. Pretty chillax, pretty chillax. Got myself a Fantasian for Wait, okay, wait. Do you mean Fantasia? Oh. Do you mean Fantasia, or do you mean a fantastic Asian? I need to know which. Did you get a fantastic Asian, a fanciful Asian, or did you get Fantasia from Disney, or am I misreading this even worse than that? Ooh. I used to have Fantasia 2 growing up. We didn't have Fantasia 1, but we had Fantasia 2, and I used to listen and watched that all the time. I always remember that it ended with the volcano one, where like where you have the nature spirit and it goes to the volcano, and then the volcano destroys all the nature, and then the nature spirit, like, through the ashes rebuild. That one was always beautiful. I also liked the one where it's like the busy city. I can never remember what it's called, but like there's this one in Fantasia where it's like a really busy city, and there's like these two parents who are so caught up in their job that they like get neglectful of their child. Fantasia Neo Dimension. It's from original Final Fantasy creator, and oh, it's a game made by a fantastic Asian. Ah. Let's see here. The original creator of Final Fantasy, though. I hope it's good. Actually, I did not know this, but Red Dead Redemption 2 is, because it's a third-party launcher, you have to buy it separately for each account you have. So I was actually set up to have a really bad debut week. Sorry. Debut anniversary week in March, because I had no idea of this until Shogmami bought it for me, and I was just like, wait, but I already own this. And then I checked and I was like, oh god, I don't own this. And I was incredibly thankful, so now I have to go back and check through everything and see what uses third-party launchers. Oh god, but I hope your game turns out great. But also the reason we're doing Kingdom Come Deliverance is largely to test out my idea for how we're gonna do Red Dead Redemption, because Red Dead Redemption is like a 40 or 50 hour game. And the question is, can I just do endurance streams to get through it? Because I don't think I want to have... I don't think I want to do like a bunch of 2-hour streams to get through Red Dead Redemption. I just feel like that might... Like, if I did Monday, Friday streams to get through it, that would be 4 hours. That'd be 4 hours a week, you know, for like 2-hour streams each day. That'd be 4 hours a week. That's 10 weeks. That's insane, you know, for like one game to eat up that much of like the schedule. If I did it for 3 hours, that'd be 6 hours a week. Oh my god, there's so many. There's so many. There's so many. I feel like I'm not. I need more. I need more items. That'd be 6 hours a week, which would get us to 36 within. That doesn't seem right. That's 9, dumbass. 36 would be if it was 9 hours a week. It would get us to 36 in 5 weeks. That doesn't seem right either. Wait a minute. That's half the time. That doesn't seem right. Yeah, that'd be if it's 8. Hold up. That doesn't... Wait. Okay, it takes us 6 weeks to get through it still. Okay. That makes sense. Which is still a long time, is the problem. Like, it's like 2 to like... It's like 2 or like 2.5... It's pretty much 2 months is how long it would take. So I think I'm just gonna do like endurance streams when I can and just get like 10-hour increments out of the way for that. And we're gonna be doing Kingdom Come Deliverance to see how practical that is, of me just streaming for really long periods of time. Like when I played KOTOR and played it for 8 hours. But that one was an accident. That one was an accident when I did that. I'm just really bad at RPGs. Yes, I would like the horns. I would like the spider cooking. am looking forward to getting December behind me, though, because December hasn't been bad, but it's not been great for the channel, in all honesty. Full disclosure, like, it's just been, like, a depressingly slow month. Ooh, seemingly, like, no matter what I try. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put all my effort into next month. Ooh, so I'm already planning. I'm actually not quite sure what I want to do another recording. My only problem is I'm just not quite sure what I want to record. It might be... It might be the most dangerous game, but I'm not sure. I want to see if I can find something that's like closer to half an hour instead of like 50 minutes or an hour long. To function as a good stepping stone from the Raven, which was a 10 minute. I said hour, I meant to say minutes, sorry. Which is a 30 minute or instead of a hour long read. I want to find something that's a little... Ooh, that's a good stepping stone. But I already have the most dangerous game planned out. Okay, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Ooh. I already know what art I want to commission for it. I already know what promotions I want to do for it. So whether that's January or not, that's already planned. Ooh. Only the date isn't planned for that. Let's go around here. The table doesn't do anything to stop them. I forgot. Please give me that. And I'm just not speccing at all in this. Let's get the sheep. Okay. Ooh. But I do want to step up video production for next year as well. That's also something I'm hoping to do. Because I just pretty much had like no video production at all this year. And I plan to not only do the readings, but I hope to get at least one review out before like the halfway point of the year. Just have to figure out what I want to talk about. And I've kind of relegated it to only be positive topics because there's a lot of things I could excoriate. There's a lot of things I could be very hateful towards. Like I could make a very, I could make some very biting reviews of some things, but I want to celebrate some things. Like I think it'd be really nice to make a review of The Thing for the first week of summer, because The Thing takes place the first week of winter in the southern hemisphere, which is the first week of summer in the northern hemisphere. But I think that'd be a nice thing to do, like have a review of The Thing, play through The Thing remake, The Thing what is it? Not remake, it's remaster, The Thing remaster game, and then do a watch along for that. We're gonna do Star Wars a month again, by which I mean we're just gonna watch Empire Strikes Back because we watched A New Hope last year. Oh my god. I have not spec'd properly at all for this. This is my own fault. I've thrown this Nephilim to hell without care or want. I have cast her down like Lucifer before her, though her sin was nothing. The sin, the fault you see, is all mine. And her suffering is my punishment. Oh, what cruel fate. Why is it not I down there being accosted by the obsessed, by those who know not the term personal freaking boundaries? Why must I be the one to watch her suffer and be powerless to prevent it? Why, when she's innocent of any wrongdoing, must she suffer in turn? Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Get the fuck away from me. Okay, it's fine. Those were not my magma. I don't have magma, in fact. I would really like if I could upgrade my anything. Primarily my main weapon, though. I'd really like that game. No, I want to upgrade my main weapon, please. Thank you. Please just let me upgrade it. No, I appreciate the money, but thank you. Oh, the lava bucket was enchanted. The dastards. Let's see here. I'm not picking up any anvils. I feel like this is just a waste. Whoa. I already talked about the watch along. Okay, well I talked about that out of order. We're probably gonna actually be doing more watch alongs in the future. I don't think they're gonna be like a monthly thing, but if I can find an excuse to do watch alongs, I'm gonna do it. Like, oh god, not for Kingdom Come Deliverance, but for the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. When we're done with that, I do plan to call up my brother, have him come over, and we're gonna watch A Knight's Tale. Because I want to watch A Knight's Tale with my brother on stream. I just want to watch A Knight's Tale, to be honest. We both really like the movie, and I feel like it would be a hoot and a half to watch it on stream. Ooh. Actually, for the thing, I might also bring in guests for the thing. Not family, but I might bring in some guests for the thing. I've talked to some people who have shown interest in the movie in general, and we're gonna be watching it anyways on, oh my god, there's so many of them! We're gonna be watching it in the first week of summer anyways, like June 20th. Why not? Why not? Just bring people in for that. I'd want to bring somebody who hasn't seen it before if possible, so they could be all shocked and surprised. Is that already enchanted? I hope not. Tries to reduce attack. The target marked will increase. Yeah, sure. Okay. Stop. Whoop. Please die, please die, please die, please die. I request of you death. It is a simple request. I assure you, all you need to do is no longer live. See here, you need enchantment. I think it was already enchanted. Yeah, I really, really hope that I'm able to skip. My brother is typically pretty free on the weekend. It would be Meyer. Not that that's much of a point of reference, but it'd be the more laid-back brother that I've talked about. Actually, by coincidence, my other brother is coming to visit us. Was planning to visit me this or next weekend, and I almost invited him to the Muppet watch along, but I thought nay, because I had already invited an Eldritch being to it, and I thought it'd be rude last minute to add my brother when I had already invited somebody else. Like, they would still come, of course, but I feel like, you know, it turned into like a three is a crowd situation, and it'd just be rude. Especially because they wouldn't have any point of reference for one another. But actually, I have a lot of... I'm really happy, though, that I'm moving on to Kingdom Come Deliverance. Specifically because I have I've actually been planning to do Kingdom Come Deliverance for a long time. And though it's ahead of schedule, I've actually been... I'm actually all set to do it because I have a lot, chat, of mobile suits that I have specifically because I was planning to play Kingdom Come Deliverance and its sequel. Like, I have a lot of mobile suits that are themed around knights. Let me see here. I have one from Iron-Blooded Orphans. I have another one from Iron-Blooded Orphans. I could get 2 more from Iron-Blooded Orphans, but I'm not really interested in those ones. But I could if I wanted to. I have... Ooh. God, I bought one just recently. What was it for? What was it? Oh, I bought the Black Knight from Gundam Seed, because even though I don't like Gundam Seed, it's a really cool looking model. Oh god. There's all sorts of, like, I have so many nightly mobile suits just ready to go for any medieval thing that we do. Let's see here, membership. Actually, if I'm going back to, actually I'm going to town soon, so I might actually even be able to get even more nightly mobile suits. I'm gonna be swimming. I'm gonna be swimming in it, chat. We're gonna be such on theme. Oh. But I can't forget, I need to, next year, I need to do the last 2 mobile suits that were picked by collab partners. I can't skip those. I still have Megatron and the Castria, or I can never say its name right. Ooh. But the one that looks like a Zaku crossed with a bell pepper. Please, please just die. Oh god, I got stuck. I saw my life flash before my eyes. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Just die. I just want the things. But I'm too weak and you're too tanky. It's not fair. Ooh, bell pepper. None of my stuff combines. I'm just not optimized at all. Hold up. Yes. Yes, it's working. Walking around them works. Oh. It's almost over for our hero. Oh god. I was gonna ask and then I realized you're probably talking about the stream. I was gonna ask, like, which Gundam are you talking about? Which story? Ooh. Oh my god. I still don't. I can't remember the name of the guy who looks like Guts from Iron-Blooded Orphans to this day. I was on the phone with my brother Kraft, and I literally just go like, the dude, like the guy who pilots the Gushian, and he's like, oh, what's his name? I was like, I don't know. He looked like Guts. Like, I have no other frame of reference for this dude. He just looks like Guts. He's Gundam Guts. He even has a giant impractical weapon, and he's awesome. Oh my god, and his whole story is hardship and how, you know, everything turns out terrible. He's amazing. Oh god. Well, yes. I want to push them back. I want to social distance them. Oh god. There's so many good Gunpla at like the shop where my brothers live that like I hope like some of them are still in stock when I visit them again. Because I had a Virulent, which is like a kind of a weird looking mech, but like that's the place that had like the knightly looking mechs or whatever that I was like I can get even more of them. Because like half of Iron-Blooded Orphan mechs like look knightly or look demonic. So I can get more from there, like, I can just build, chat. But I'm forgetting what's the last thing I have that's nightly. After this, I might get up and literally go to the Gunpla collection and check. Oh no! Where is it? I'm really happy the counter starts early, so I can be like, no, you need to get close to this dude.
Oh god. Oh god. No. Oh, I got started on it a little late. I hope I didn't start too late. I don't have the feather. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Iris hits. Iris hits like a truck. I sent him to another world. He's now an anime girl, and he's destined to save the world. It's fine, chat. Oh god, I did a mercy. Oop. Got a bit. One thing I do need to learn is how to shut up. Because I'm a nervous talker and I'm always nervous on stream, and I need to find a good balance. Like, it's not, the problem isn't talking, it's when I'm nervous and talking. Because that's not good. So I need to find a good balance of that. Because when you're nervous talking, you talk fast, and you know, you always want to say something when you don't need to. You can just let the moment speak for itself. Put the ass plug in. What was the last one? There was one more mobile suit that I was really excited for. Oh, no, there was two more mobile suits. I have the Gian and the Gia, which is, the Gian is probably like the worst looking mobile suit from the 1 Year War. Though if you give it a collar, it looks really good, but I don't know, something about the Gian looks really weird. It's literally just like a knightly mobile suit, which you might think like, well, that sounds cool. It looks like a knight and it's a giant mecha. Yeah, but it's not like the Black Knight from like not like the Black Knight from BattleTech. Don't think that. The Black Knight looks cool. Oh god. This is more like kind of like his lame cousin, in all honesty. But the Gia looks awesome. The Gia, which is actually a which is like an edit of a different mech, but the Gia is so cool. It's probably one of my favorite custom mechs from like Gundam Battlelog or whatever it's called. I don't know if it's Battlelog or one of the other series, but I'm really looking forward to that one. It looks so damn cool. I think it looks cooler than the Black Knight, in all honesty. Like, the Black Knight looks like it's trying a little bit hard because it's from Gundam Seed, so of course it looks like it's a bit of a try-hard. But the Gia just looks so clean. And the person who pilots it, her hairpins are literally the shields for the Gian, which is so stupid, but I kind of love that. Oh god, it's one of those characters where like they're, oh god, this is hurting. Where there's like a visual representation on the model. It's like when you have a character who like, you know, uses a certain Pokemon and then they have like a pin of that Pokemon, or like if someone has like a Pikachu and then they have a hairpin that's like a Pikachu tail. It's like that. Is it tacky? Yes. But do I love it? Also yes. God damn it. The redeeming quality of this is that Iris hits like a truck. Now the question is, when we're done with this, when we end Achan's life, when we make her retire, do we just gamble all of our money, or do we just do one roll then buy the Christmas outfit? Do we just waste all of our money on the gambling, or do we actually just buy the Christmas outfit when we're done with this? Ooh. Are we responsible, or we just waste all of our money? Oh god. Even I don't know. Oh fuck. I'm the one playing. Oh, I lost track of the cursor. How are you still alive? Just die already. Hold up. That's a lot of health. That's a lot of damage. Oh, that's a lot more damage. Oh, there we go. She's dead. And we literally died an instant after. Chat, that's us dying. We died an instant after we won.
That's clutch. Okay, main menu. Character gotcha. We have 8 rolls. We can just waste our money. I think we should just waste our money. You know, why not? Like, come on, Santa. That's not Santa Claus. We need to remember, though, we need to keep $1,000 so we can buy Santa Claus when we don't get it. And that's Gunner barking because I'm playing Hollow Cure, and he gets incredibly impetuous when I'm playing Hollow Cure for some reason. He's not barking loud, but I fucking heard him. I shouldn't curse. Next year, when I curse, whenever I say the F word specifically, I'm gonna do 5 push-ups. That's not a rule for now, that's a rule for later. You hold me to that, chat. Look, we're just gonna buy it. What is it gonna be, chat? Oh my goodness, we got Santa Claus. Ignore the background. We got Santa Claus. Ooh. We'll use that next. We'll use that tomorrow. Oh. Okay. I kind of have to rush this because Gunner probably actually has to go outside. Oh my god, and he's actually starting to do loud barks now because he wants the attention. He probably just wants attention, to be honest. Santa, yes. Wait, we didn't lose any money on that. Am I insane? Did we not lose any money when we bought Santa? I thought we had only 1,400. But thank you, well, no, thank you for coming, and thank you for enjoying this if you did. If you did like it, give it a like. It helps in the algorithm and all that crap. But the most important thing is that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a great day and a wonderful rest of your year. There's not a lot, but we'll be back tomorrow for another stream to continue this, and then after that, we'll do a watch along, okay? And then we won't be doing anything after that until the new year. Sorry if you thought we were going back to normal schedule. We won't be. But until tomorrow, have a great day and a wonderful life. I don't have the Star Spangled Banner song queued up, so we're just gonna have this up here for a moment. And we're just gonna, I guess, have this play while we're just closing out.